Welcome to the Community Hotline, for the community, by the community, presented by 88 Real Estate Media. And today, I'm your host, Mr. Bob Fang. We have a very special guest today, Mr. Justin Holt. Why don't you introduce yourself, good sir?
Hi, my name is Justin Holt, and I am a artist in the video game industry, and that's pretty much it.
I love it. Have you always been creative? How'd you get into it? Tell us the kind of role.
Oh, yeah. So the story of me, the video game industry, I've only been in for about 18 months. For the past, I would say 15 plus years, I was in the film industry, working in visual effects and film. But before that, meandered into this career. Originally, I was in school, pre-med, wanting to be a doctor. I have an older brother who's a doctor. Even went to the same school he went to, had this track on wanting to be in the medical industry and the field. Very quickly realized that going to school for the next 12, 15 years of my life was maybe not something I wanted to do. Just by sheer random happenstance, I had a friend who took a really basic animation class as an elective at my university, and she was raving about it, and I was like, okay, I'll try it out. And very quickly realized, this is something I'm really interested in, more so than anything I did for medical, classes and stuff like that in pre-med program. Coincidentally, I also had another brother who was going to an art school at the time, and I was chatting with him one day, and he basically said, if you're really serious about this, you need to transfer out of your school, because it didn't really have a 3D art program. It was more of a general liberal arts college. Right. And he says, you need to come to this art school. You can get an actual bachelor's of fine art, an actual degree in visual effects. So, transferred out halfway through my 2 years, and then did my final 2 years at the art school, and then kind of just started working in the industry. So,
wow. How did your parents feel about that? 2 years after pre-med, they're like, I'm done.
Yeah, my parents have always been very supportive, although cautious and in many ways apprehensive, because when you think about going into an artistic field, I think there's preconceived notions and assumptions and just stigma behind being a professional artist. Can't really make a lot of money, not very stable. And to be honest, in the beginning, it was kind of rocky, because in the visual effects industry, working in film, it was a very transient, freelance-based career. You work from film to film in the beginning. Eventually, you can work your way into staff positions, more permanent positions at these studios. But for the most part, you're just working film to film. So you're just trying to chase the work and doing it because you love it, and seeing your work on a big screen and millions of people can see it. It's pretty wild. So yeah, it took about maybe 2 years into being a visual effects artist before my parents started to realize that maybe, this was not so transient, not so up in the air and freelance, and, I could actually make a real living of doing it. So,
speaking of making a real living, let's move on to the first topic of the day then, which is money.
Right.
I think this is a pretty important topic with the kids these days. Tell us, what is money?
What is money to me? It's changed probably in the past half decade. I'm a father now. My son just turned 5 last month. Yeah, so before becoming a father, money was not a big concern for me. Obviously, I like nice things. I want to live well. To be quite honest, I wasn't very good with money early, like in my 20s, into my late 20s, early 30s. But obviously once reality changed for me, and becoming a father meant different responsibilities, and not just responsibilities, but different things I wanted to do and provide. Then money became a bit more serious for me with regards to how I spend it, what I do with it, how I save it. Because before, I was playing with money, I was playing it more like checkers, just looking down at my feet, just doing one move ahead. Whereas now I'm looking at money more like a game of chess and thinking about, 5, 6, 7 moves ahead.
Can you elaborate on that? Maybe some kids can relate to what their parents are going through. How is your money change pre-kid to kid now? I know you mentioned spending habits and all that.
Yeah. So before having a child, before becoming a father, I was very adamant on making sure I was in a position to provide my son or daughter a life that was similar, if not better, than what I was provided. And four, to be quite honest, it was a very high bar because my parents provided quite a lot for me and my family and my kid and my brothers and sisters. We didn't go without very often. So I wanted to make sure that I provided exactly that or better. Becoming a parent, you're never ready and there's never a good time. It's just one of those things you just jump in because it's one of those things you learn along the way. You can't have all the answers in front of you before you start. For me and my wife, we just realized that, if there's ever a time we want to start a family, now's, kind of time, which was 5 years ago.
Right. Did you guys ever, what's like a constant worry for you in terms of, do you have like money worrying?
Fortunately for me, no, I don't have any money worrying at this point. My constant worry is just the world my son sees and the world that he lives in, the world that he's going to grow up in, the craziness that's happening right now, unforeseen craziness that's going to happen in the future, all those kind of things in the forefront of my worrying mind, but they're always there. I'm always going to worry about, him just enjoying life, doing things, not suffering, not struggling.
Definitely.
I want to make sure my son has more than what I had. So that's my worry.
Are you gonna teach him any like money education tips? Did you have any money education tips growing up?
No, I didn't. Well, it's a two-part question. Yes, I'm going to try. I didn't really have anybody showing me financially. To be quite honest, had I been better with my money early on, I'd be in an even better place than I am now. Not to say that I'm in a bad place, because I'm not, but hindsight's 2020. At one of the companies I was working at, they had this theme party. It was kind of a casino party, right? So you go in and there's blackjack and there's craps and stuff like that. So there was one, I think I was playing roulette, and everybody comes into the party and they start with an X number of chips, and you get what you get. It's all fake money. You're not actually using real money. So right. The risk is zero, but it's this fantasy, right? And I remember thinking, okay, I start with a stack of chips. It's not bad. It's a decent amount, but it's not anything to call home about. And I started playing this game, and I started winning a lot of chips. There were numerical values on this money, so you could kind of get an idea of what you had. I think everybody started with $200 worth of chips. Okay. And through the course of the night, I started winning and winning and winning, and my stack got huge. I'm talking thousands of dollars worth of chips. And I started realizing, man, because my pot is bigger, I can take more risks, but still reap more rewards because I'm pulling from a bigger pot. When you're dealing with $100, you can't take risks on $100, right? Right. You've got to be frugal, and you have to be very conscious about how you spend that $100. But if you have $10,000, now you have some room to take a risk on an investment here or something there.
Definitely.
And I think that planted a seed early on. And this early on, I'm talking like late 20s. This is not early. This is very late in my life so far. And so I started realizing, maybe I should start saving more money, because I'm realizing that I can. And then you start thinking, you extrapolate that, and you're like, oh man, people have $100 million. They could take $5 million, invest on that, and then reap benefits on that. And then that's like a drop in the bucket for them.
Right.
So now, at the age of 38, I've now finally kind of realized, oh, okay, I need to. You can't really. You have to spend money to make money, but you also have to have enough to be able to spend that money to make money. And in order to do that, you just have to save, and you have to. It just at the end of the day comes down to priorities. What do I want? Basically, do I want to play this one day at a time, or do I want to play this 5-10 years at a time? And when you're young, it's difficult to see that. It's very, very difficult, because we all think we're invincible. Life is forever. Yeah, it's a different mindset.
Definitely. All right, got it. So you're gonna take your kid to Vegas, the roulette table.
Actually, what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna maybe play Monopoly with him, and because me and my brothers used to play Monopoly religiously. I'm talking, we had games that lasted days. And I know people who hate Monopoly because it's a game that lasts forever. But we even came up with ways to play it so you can expedite things. So we can do quick games of Monopoly, which are still a couple hours. But I think that's a good game in terms of understanding monetary value. But, we were just doing it just to play. I was thinking maybe doing it in a context of teaching Nico, money management.
I love that. All right, teaching. Let's go. Second topic, education. Moving along here. Tell us, who were you in high school?
High school, I was an athlete. Had the dreams of playing in the NBA. That was my life. That was like, there's no other reality. I'm going to be a professional basketball player until I hit probably senior year of high school, and reality set in. I'm like, no, I'm not going to grow any taller, not going to jump any higher. I've got some skills, but they're not collegiate level. I actually forfeited my entire senior year. I just stopped playing for the school and just decided to focus on education because at the time I was like, oh, I want to get into health science field, maybe medical field. And then that's when I really kind of buckled down and started thinking about education more seriously.
What was what made you want to go down the field of trying to be a doctor and all that?
I've always liked working with people. I've always liked the rapport that you have when you are in kind of that environment. I did an internship while I was in high school at a institute called the Kessler Institute in New Jersey, and it's a rehab center specifically dealing with spinal cord injuries and burn victims. And so I did a summer. I stayed with one of my aunts over the summer. She lived like a driving distance from this institute. And I basically was just an intern, just helping nurses and doctors and physical therapists, occupational therapists with patients. And some of the things I saw in there it was very intense. I made a couple really good friends who were patients there. One of them I still talk to today. She was an amazing track athlete. She was a star in high school. And then she got into a terrible car accident, overnight became a quadriplegic and couldn't move from the neck down. Today she's doing much better. She has full function of her body. She still has to, walk with some assistance, but she's got kids and she lives a full life. I had another guy I made friends with when I was there. He was, just a guy backyard wrestling with his friends, broke his neck, paraplegic. And then I've met a couple other people that were burn victims that I've never seen anything like that before. One guy I met, I thought he was in his 30s or 40s. He was always in bandages because he was burned by like 70+% of his body.
Wow. And
turned out he was only 17 and he was, or 18 or something, because really young, was in a horrific fire at his college. And, so you see these people dealt these really difficult hands. And what struck me, not just there, but, the segues into another story, but what struck me was the spirit of these people. They were kicked pretty hard. They were knocked down pretty quickly. And all of them, it was the commonality. There was this spirit in all of them that just was unfazed. Yeah, I used to be able to run like the wind. Now I can't move my body, but I'm still hopeful. And to me, that was profound, because when you see someone in that situation, your first reaction is, what would I do if I was in that situation? How would I react? It's difficult to guess, but you can kind of gauge it. But when you're really lying there and you've got this halo head brace that's got pins directly into your skull and you can't move, and people have to feed you, people have to bathe you 24/7, it's a different kind of reality. And that can take a toll on someone's mental state,
Definitely.
For sure. So seeing these people just have overwhelming positivity was something that I was really drawn to, and seeing how progress in their day, progress in their weeks, progress in their months changed things. That's something that I thought I wanted to do. So working with people, helping people. Little did I know that I would eventually move into an industry that does that, but not on that level. I do affect people and give them a sense of retreat in films and in games. I like being a part of this industry, that both visual effects for film and games, that provide people an escape sometimes from reality. And I like being a part of that community and that industry, because it's fun. At the end of the day, you're not saving lives. Although I did hear that Fortnite was kind of instrumental in some anti-bullying somewhere, I think in Australia, because kids found out one kid was getting bullied through these chats, through Fortnite, and then they intervened. So In some ways it can, but for the most part, it's just entertainment. And I like being part of the entertainment industry. So
I love that. I love that. What would you say is a defining moment in your life, and how did it impact you?
first thing comes to mind is becoming a father. That's definitely a defining moment for anybody, I think. It really puts your life into perspective, as well as obviously the little one that you are bringing into the world. It changes so many different things and in so many small ways that I don't think I was prepared for. For instance, watching films that show kids getting hurt is different to me now. Kids getting bullied, the stuff that I would watch and it was kind of just, you just see it and you forget it. Now it's difficult for me to watch because I immediately just start thinking, man, I would give my left arm to make sure that Nico never got bullied like I just saw that. Anything tragic like that. And so you digest things differently. So yeah, I think that's a definitely defining moment. And then, I have a handful of things within my career that I find defining, but it's just a career. And I think parenthood's a bit more important.
Definitely. What were some challenges you faced when you were younger? That you might feel like Nico might go through the same things.
I have to be perfectly honest. I don't know. I don't feel like I had many huge hurdles. There are difficult times in my life, but I don't think there were anything. Obviously, at this point, there's nothing that I didn't overcome. And I hear so many other stories from people that have really difficult situations and overcoming those. But I've had a pretty happy life, even as a kid. There's a big difference because me and my family moved around the world constantly. So there was a lot of adjustment with that. But at the same time, I had my two other brothers with me always. So it was never doing this alone. So it's difficult because, I always had brothers. So I think I'll just need to cross that bridge when I get there. Like when Nico experiences something that is, for lack of a better term, life lesson or a life experience, sit down and talk with him. The thing that we focus more on with him is just providing a space for him and a understanding that he can come to me and Haley for anything. There will be a no judgment zone, and no matter what happens, that he can always come to us for anything. And I think it's important for someone to have that, especially going through life as an only child potentially, or doing things on your own solo, that you always have that security net, emotionally and physically, to always fall back on.
You just gotta make two more brothers for him, right? So that he.
Yeah, we'll see. We're getting up there in the years, so we'll see.
All right, let's move on to the last topic of the day, which is love. I know you're one of three. Tell us, was there like sibling rivalry, growing up? Was it all love?
Oh no, we fought all the time. Like when you share the same room with two other people for the first 12 years of your life, there will be fights, especially when you're all boys, competitive. We used to get into horrible fights, like horrible fights. We always had rules. You couldn't hit in the face and stuff like that. But it's just the nature of being, all three of us are very headstrong, stubborn to a fault, and driven. So that all three of us, that's just oil and water at the best of times. Obviously, as we got older, things leveled out. But yeah, there was always bickering and fighting because you're around two other people 24/7, and you're all doing the same things, and you're all trying to do the same things. So there's a natural competitiveness that happens.
I love that. Tell us, what is love?
What is love? Oof. To me, love is selfless, putting something or someone else before you. I think ultimately, I think it's difficult to describe, but I think selfless, I think is the way I would see it. Especially being a father, the love for your child it's something else that's very difficult to describe.
Who would you say was your first love?
My first love? Oh, it would have probably been in high school. I guess my first serious girlfriend in high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was it? Was it when you got your first girlfriend? Did your brothers were they like, "Ooh, Justin got a girlfriend"? Was there like competition, like to see who could get like the first girlfriend? Or
No, there's no competition there. Although it got a little weird in middle school and high school. There were girls that treated us like a trading card set, like got to date all three of them. And fortunately, I've never dated any girl that has ever dated my brothers. However, Chris and Jeremy have dated the same girl before, maybe twice before. I don't remember. But I'm like, nah, I'm not into that at all. So you guys can keep on going.
How do you show love to others?
The way I show love is I give. I firmly believe that when you're in a position to give back, it is an obligation, not anything but an obligation to do so. So that's why throughout my career, I've been a part of different, in terms of mentorship programs where I teach kids how to do what I do in the visual effects industry, in the game industry. I've released their online workshops for what I do. And then simple things like every year during Christmas, my favorite time is Christmas, not because it's Christmas and it's awesome, but it's because I get to give. Honestly, I don't want anything at Christmas. Everybody asks, you ask anybody, I'm the hardest person to shop for, mainly because when I see something, I just get it, bad with money, but also because I don't really need or want anything. I just want to be with the family, and I'd rather just give stuff to them. I don't really want anything in return. So for me, I think a big part of showing my love for people and family and friends is giving back.
You guys were all adopted. Was there ever like a love connection or a disconnection when you guys first got into the family? Like, was there like
No, I mean, we were so young. We were 2 when we entered the family. So my first memories are with them. There was never a doubt, never an issue. In fact, even being adopted wasn't, I mean, I know my brother Chris is doing this whole new series of this adoption podcast series where they dive more into that. But personally for me, I've never had an issue with being adopted. I've never had fears of abandonment, the typical things that some adoptees go through. Yeah. But I think that's a testament to my parents and the way they raised us. And, we also had an advantage because we grew up in international school systems, international environments where everybody's different. It's not like growing up in upstate New York where, you rarely see anybody but, a white person. It was a normality for us where everybody's different. Everybody's coming from somewhere else. Everybody's bringing in a different culture. We're living in different cultures every, 3 to 5 years. Yeah, I don't think there was ever a time where we didn't feel loved or there was this weird barrier between our parents and our family because, we have older brother and older sister who aren't adopted. So there was never an issue there. And they were 7, 8 years older than us 3. It was always just normal for us.
Okay. What are 3 pieces of life advice you have for the youth?
So the first one is I firmly believe that one should pursue the things they think about every day. And I'm not talking about, oh, I gotta pay bills, I gotta do this. I'm talking about the things that you daydream. Take a note about the things that you daydream every day. It could be, playing sports or, playing video games, whatever. But for me, I did think about movies. I'm a huge film buff. I love films. I love movies. I love the whole experience of it. And so that was one thing while I was going through pre-med where I didn't think about being a doctor every day. In fact, I rarely thought about being a doctor. But I did think about movies all day. And I was like, maybe there's something there. And fortunately, I did find an avenue that allowed me into that industry. But I firmly believe you need to just take note of the things that you're thinking about every day, because those are the things that when it gets hard, you're still going to do it because it's less of an obligation. It's more of a interest. I don't want to use the word passion because there's connotations with that, but think about what you're interested in, because that's where, if you can get there, it will never ever be a job. Like for me, working on Fortnite, doing characters for this game, this cultural phenomenon that is this game, it's something else. Like I don't feel like I'm working. Honestly, I feel like I'm doing personal projects all day, and it's just a lot of fun. So I feel very fortunate that I've been able to find this avenue. But that's one piece of advice: is pursue the things that you're really interested in. The second one would be you don't get what you don't ask for. So a lot of people, I find, they often sell themselves short. Especially, I've seen it countless times in my industry, where you have really talented, gifted people, but they sell themselves short. They don't understand their worth. You can't get what you don't ask for. If you don't ask for it, there's no way you're going to get it. So always strive for a little bit more. It's, the classic negotiate technique. If you want $1, ask for $2. You're not always going to get it. In fact, 95% of the time you won't get it. But there is always that 5% that will happen. But it will be 0% if you never take that chance. So don't be afraid to take chances, because you never know, when, the universe aligns and the planets align and things work out.
Closed mouths don't get fed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the last piece. Say something about fatherhood for all the fathers that are listening right now.
Yeah, I don't want to. Like, parenthood's it's a strange thing. Like, it's different for everybody. There's no rule book. What works for you will not work for someone else. What works for someone else will not work for you, because every child is different. But I think it is without doubt the greatest thing I've ever done, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
Come on, Justin, share some father tips, man. People need to know. What are they? Do they stop their friends? Like, what's going on?
No, I think for me, we try to, like I did explain a little bit earlier, fostering an environment where he feels safe. There are things that we do, that we're finding that we do instinctively when we get frustrated, and there are repercussions for that when it becomes a pattern behavior. When you get frustrated with, say, your kids having a temper tantrum, or they're difficult, don't want to cooperate, it's easy to get upset and angry. But at that point, you're just fighting fire with fire, because kids at this age, especially, they don't have the cognitive ability to process these big emotions that they're feeling. And you have to realize that. You have to understand that when they're throwing a tantrum, this is their way of dealing with this massive emotion of frustration, of expectation. I have this expectation I want to do something and it didn't happen. These are big things that even as adults we don't deal with very well. So imagine a 5-year-old. Taking a step back in those moments is difficult, but it's important. And instead of yelling, instead of getting angry, fighting fire with fire, you just give them space. Let them, let the dust settle, keep a calm attitude, and talk to them rather than yell at them. Because as life goes on, they're going to realize that they can deal with these big emotions without being conflicted with it 24/7. And they do have people that are there for them when they feel overwhelmed. And I think that's important.
I love it. Okay. And then just to kind of wrap it up, I kind of want to do a time capsule right now where that Nico's going to see this, when he's 18. What is one thing you're going to say to him in this video, and what message you want to leave for him?
What message? Well, obviously that I love him to bits, and I just hope that he finds what he's looking for, and I hope that I can be a part of that for him, and provide some guidance along the way.
Okay. Well, here you go, Nico. Hope you find what you're looking for by the time you're 18, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Before I forget, 88 Real Estate Media is looking for members to join the oversight committee to build the best Kung Fu school in the world. Send us a message if you want to learn more. Other than that, Justin, where can people find you if they want to reach out?
You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram, and that's pretty much it. Instagram, LinkedIn. I know Chris is like this massive TikTok thing now. I don't even have TikTok. I'm still trying to wrestle with the concept of it. I don't quite understand it. Because every time Chris sends me a TikTok video, all I'm thinking of is, how much time did he spend working on that? Like, that's a lot of time you got to spend memorizing not just dialogue, but inflections and tone. And I mean, that's like a stage play. You've got to rehearse it over and over and over again. So that's all I think about every time he sends me a TikTok video, and he sends a lot of them. So I'm like, man, that's a commitment. So
yeah, good thing he has a day job, right?
Yeah, right.
All right, guys. We'll see you guys soon.